top 15 matchup with both playoff implications, but also Pac-12 championship game implications. Number 5, Washington. At number 12, Oregon State. First of all, show of hands. Be honest. Do not lie to me. How many of you knew Oregon State is 8-2 and Oregon State is in the top 15 nationally, number 12 in the country, as crazy as that sounds? Well, I'm here to tell you they are. Here's the crazy thing about Oregon State, too. They're not out of the Pac-12 playoff or the Pac-12 title picture yet. Now, they have Washington at home at Oregon next week. Even if they were to win both, which would cause absolute chaos, even if they were to win both, they would still need either Arizona to lose or Washington to lose a second game to get in. But ultimately, the only point I'm trying to make, they are still very much in the Pac-12 playoff picture. They need help, but if they went out, they would be in a scenario where, one, they'd be 10-2. They'd have wins over Washington and Oregon. And so we'll see what happens there. But as far as this game is concerned, let's not waste any more time. Let's not go crazy with the hypotheticals. If Oregon State does this and Arizona does that and Oregon loses here, let's just focus. Let's keep the main thing, as the kids say. The spread, by the way, I think is very interesting and worth noting. Oregon State, a 2-point home favorite. 2-point home favorite in this game. And also, oh, by the way, the over-under in this one is at 63.5. And how about this? As I'm recording right now, spread just went from Oregon State -2 to Oregon State -2.5. So apparently DraftKings knows nothing about this Washington undefeated stuff. Very interesting. Let's get into these two teams. And from the Oregon State perspective, listen, they're kind of who you think they are, right? And if you love college football, if you listen to this show, you know what Oregon State's all about. They want to run the ball. They want to play great defense. They really kind of take after their region of the country. It's kind of cold. It's rainy. It's not LA. It's not Arizona. It's not bright lights. It's kind of grimy. It's kind of, you just got to do what you got to do. Well, that's Oregon State. Top 20 rushed offense in college football. Number 2 in the Pac-12, by the way. Damian Martinez, the leading rusher in the Pac-12. I think this is worth noting, over 1,000 yards. I think he's 13th in the country or so, but leading the Pac-12 in rushing. Defense is once again very good. And credit DJ Uiagalelei. Remember him? Clemson? He's having a pretty good year. Still not super accurate, 58% completion percentage, but does have 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year, and he's played well. He has them in position again for another 10-win season if they were to win out in a potential Pac-12 championship spot. So we'll see what happens from all that stuff, but they are playing really good football. Their only losses on the road, have not lost at home yet. They lost at Arizona, at Washington State. And overall, they're just playing really good football up there in Corvallis. Again, I think it gets a little bit lost in the shuffle, but last few weeks, here is what they've done. They've won 5 of 6. That includes wins over UCLA, which is, again, very interesting given the news of the week, and also a win over Utah, which I think a lot of people have forgotten about on a Friday night at home. So they've played well at home. They're playing well overall. They are the favorites. And then you got the Washington Huskies. Let me give the Washington Huskies a little credit. I have been critical of Washington because I think they had about a 4 or 5 game stretch where they did not play great. 3 straight games, as I've said, they were outgained. Win over Oregon, win over Arizona State, win over Stanford. They were outgained in all of them, okay? Then you have, after that, you have the win at USC where you don't get outgained because you put up about 800 yards of total offense. Got Alex Grinch fired, but you still gave up 42 points. Last week, you take care of business against Utah. And that's really where I kind of want to go with this. I want to give Oregon State a little bit of credit because when I look at Oregon State, they deserve the credit or Washington, excuse me, they deserve the credit because that Utah game could have gone off the rails. They trailed 28-24 at the half. And they just kind of took over from there. They outscored Utah, 11-0 in the third quarter, if you include the safety. Weirdest play ever. There's a potential defensive touchdown, and the Washington guy drops it on like the 3-yard line as he's running into the end zone. I'm sure you've seen the highlight. It's picked up by Utah. It's recovered by Utah. Then Washington ends up getting a safety anyway. So anyway, Washington, I give them credit. They took care of business. They did what they needed to do. I will say, though, as I look at this game, I do think it's a little bit of a different deal. First off, this is very interesting. This is important to note. It's expected to be a cold, rainy night in Corvallis. I just told you what Oregon State does well. I just told you what Washington does well. Who does that benefit? The team that runs the football, top 20 rushed offense, or the top 5 pass offense in all of college football? benefits the rush offense, right? 2, I also think it's worth noting, listen, I know I just went over it. Washington is in a very precarious, they're not in a precarious situation because 1, if they win out there in the playoff, 2, if they go to the Pac-12 championship game and they beat Oregon, or if they win the Pac-12 championship game with 1 loss, they're still going to the playoff. Okay. I don't think they're going to get squeezed out as long as they have 1 or fewer losses, 0 or 1 losses. But at the same time, think about the last 6 games. We're now at a halfway point. The last 6 games that Washington has played, they have 4 wins by 1 score or less, 8 points or less. Another one of those games, they actually trailed at the half. That was Stanford, or trailed going into the fourth quarter, excuse me. And then there was the USC game where they gave up like 500 yards of total offense. So I don't know that we've seen the complete effort from Washington since like week 2, week 3. And that was against some lousy competition, a Michigan State team that had an interim head coach, a Boise State team that obviously fired their head coach over the last couple of days. I know I keep picking against Washington. They keep winning, but this just feels like the spot where they get tripped up. Good news. You win the Apple Cup. Even if you lose, if you win the Apple Cup a few weeks later, or next week, excuse me, you are going to the Pac-12 championship game. And if you win there, you're going to the college football playoff. But I think this is a bad spot. I don't like the weather because of it. Give me Oregon State -2.5. I also think that over under of 63.5 is way too many. Take the under. Those are 2 best bets for you. Oregon State -2.5, under of 63.5.